Hello, we're back. Welcome to Season 2 of Routing for Communities podcast. Stories and voices that are intertwined, connected by one thread, building internet and communication community networks. Hi, my name is Thiago Moiano from Brazil, and I'm the host of this 4-episode season. In our first season, you listen to life stories of those who create innovative, community-led projects that connect the 1/3 of humankind that is still living offline.
Sí, te escucho. ¿Cómo estás?
Do you remember some of the initiatives we brought to you in Season 1? Here is just a small taste of some of the community network builders and supporters we have interviewed.
We had a training on digital literacy.
O lugar de construção de rede comunitária a partir de corpo negro e feminino.
Hello.
Hello, Peter. Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Es la red comunitaria la que me ha enseñado, me ha inspirado, me educa.
More women are actually involved in policy advocacy work.
Throughout the 12 episodes, we talked to more than 20 people from 15 countries to tell you about innovative, diverse connectivity experiences built by the communities themselves. In the second season, we continue addressing community networks, but this time, the episodes are based on 4 central themes. In this premiere, the topic is community-centered connectivity as a strategy that communities developed for bridging the digital divide. Do you know what kind of digital gaps persist in different parts around the world? How do they impact people's lives? How does this lack of connectivity deepen local inequalities? What kind of technologies make sense in territories and communities to support people's well-being? Join us. In this podcast, we will help you think about possible answers to these questions based on what the interviewees from the first season told us. The topic provided us with a lot of content, so we decided to extend the conversation into more episodes for you. This is Routing for Communities, an audio journey tracing community connectivity around the world. Season 2, first episode. According to the publication Measuring Digital Development, Facts and Figures 2021, around 37% of the world's population has never used the internet. That's almost 3 billion people. In fact, according to the United Nations, there are also some 3 billion people who do not have access to clean water and soap. These 3 billion are people who suffer from multiple social, economic, cultural, and technological inequalities. The digital divide can be worse depending on the country and also if we look at differences regarding gender, age, income, or between urban and rural areas, for example. And community networks are a viable alternative to bridge such a digital gap. But tell me, do you know what is a community network?
We will dive into a story from Kenya, the Tuna Pandanet.
Today I will present to you an experience straight from Mexico, the Week Katat. Today you get to know the Amadiba Community Network, Casa dos Meninos or Boys House, and the Center for Information Technology and Development. We will get to know Project Quintana Libre. It's a community network in the
Well, community networks are community-centered connectivity initiatives that can provide an internet and other access-enabled infrastructure set up by, owned and/or run by a local community for its benefit according to their own visions and rules. They are so named because local communities are involved in them in one way or another. It could be, for example, in deploying, owning, and/or operating the physical infrastructure that supports voice or internet connectivity, in addition to other local digital services. They can cultivate bottom-up, sustainable approaches to communication technology and connectivity that strengthen autonomy and self-determination. Because it is the community that knows what it needs the access for, and in what terms. But to make this concept more concrete for you, I will return here to some community-centered connectivity experiences around the world that we recorded in the first season of the podcast. And if you want to know more about them, just search for the episodes in your player. Each one of the 12 episodes tells a story from one country. To make it easier for you, We have a brief description of each episode in the links to the experiences that I will bring to you now. So let's start this journey by traveling to South Africa.
Hello, my name is Lungelong Twa. I am from Pondoland. I am 27 years old this year and am part of Amatiba Community Network. My village, Amatiba, is like the whole Pondoland. We are a rural village, which some people from outside, they regard us as the primitive people, which they say we are living in the past, because our village is still very natural, very raw, and our houses are actually scattered. They are scattered maybe 500 meters in between from one house to the other, of which that space between the houses, between the homestead, we use it for farming, also using for grazing. So we are in a rural area which is close to the ocean, a very unspoiled ocean, very wild ocean. The reason why we started a community network is because we have a problem with the signal in our area. So we saw that having Wi-Fi in the community will be very helpful. As I'm saying, we have many stories to share with the world. We have struggles and victories. We need to share this with the people who are also threatened with the similar stuff that we are also being threatened with. So, and also we are always saying we want to bridge the digital divide. So having the network will means that our people will have access and will be connected to the world. Our reasons why we're fighting against this mining and stuff is because we know that we are indigenous people of this land, and then we are belonging to the land. We are dependent to the land because we know that we are going to be moved once the mining come in to be relocated.
This mining that Lungelo mentions is a titanium mining project that has threatened the community for years. People of the region need to use all available tools in the resistance against depredations by international corporations. This is why creating the community network was even more necessary and had an important political impact in this struggle. The Amadiba Community Network is exemplary when we talk about digital gaps and defending the territories of the most marginalized populations. But community networks contribute in many ways to also preserve the cultures of these places. This is, for example, the case in Colombia, in an indigenous community where the Yahuehe Casil Community Network is operating. Listen now to a member of the Nasa indigenous nation speaking in the language Nasayu.
Mauquehinze Jansquesai and Ya Nasayuetet, Wewe, Wes Nasa Hinde Nite Maunet Kau, Cha Ya Hueyasa, Umrayuena. Reciban fraternales saludos de parte de Edinson Camayo Huetio. Ahorita
Please receive salutations from Edinson Camayo Huetio. At the moment, I am a zone councilman. In order to become one, let's say, there is like an autonomous governmental structure. I'm from the municipality of Caldono, from the state of Cauca, Colombia. In the Caldono township, there are approximately 6 indigenous reservations, and each of them has their own autonomous governance. Pueblo Nuevo, which is Peña Champa, is my reservation, and I'm their representative at the Cabildos Association.
Para representar al resguardo ante a la Asociación de Cabildos. Inicialmente, pues nuestros papás,
At first, since our parents grew up in the fields in a communal dynamic, we started out in community work, community groups, and the strengthening of our own cultural identities. And that's when we realized that we have to have technological autonomy and relevant communication. And then we said, well, we are offline here. So we started to work on it. We got a group of young people from the community and began to train them on the importance of communication. We looked at it from 2 perspectives. What is communication within the framework of our worldview, and also what Western communication is. Then we started the discussion and the different kinds of technologies that the community already had access to, and those that were still coming.
Tipos de tecnologías que están en el territorio y las que vienen, entonces Ya nos metimos no solo en internet, también empezamos
We have already entered not only the internet, but we have also begun to strengthen, let's say, the 2G mobile community right now. This is used for security only, exclusively by the indigenous guard. But we also said among our people, we said, we are going to buy a transmitter, a transistor for a television, and we also have a community television right now. But our dream is to reach almost a regional level, and we are projecting that.
Televisión que casi que regional estamos proyectando.
Preserving and disseminating culture is also the focus of another community center initiative that supports and creates community networks in another country, Indonesia. I'm talking about the Common Room Networks Foundation. Its co-founder talked to us about the project that works with art, culture, communication, and new technologies in a territory very much attached to ancestral traditions in the middle of mountains and a dense forest.
Good morning, my name is Gustav, and my second name is Gustav Hariman Iskandar. I work with Common Room. It's a non-profit organization working in developing the open platform for art, culture, and ICT media in Bandung. Our initiative on community networks are started to develop, especially when we started to do project with Ciptagelar indigenous community in West Java while trying to set up the local internet infrastructure in the region. The people in that region having a very interesting and unique tradition, the traditional farming, and the location is like in the deep forest of Halimun Salak National Park. I think the forest itself is like a very important tropical forest reserve in West Java because as you probably noticed, West Java is one of the fastest growing region in Indonesia. The digital divide challenges in Indonesia is quite complex, not only because of its geographical context. As you probably noticed, in Indonesia we have maybe around 17,000 different islands with different conditions and challenges. There are highlands, coastal region, forest areas, remote islands, and so on and so on. So this kind of geographical settings is quite unique, and we have to find specific way how to develop the internet infrastructure in order to provide connectivity for people in many different islands. We have been learning a lot that the community network is not merely about the physical internet infrastructure per se. In order to have an appropriate approach on internet developments among rural communities, we also need to conduct a cultural approach and recognize local culture and traditions, because internet is not only a new platform that can utilized by the local communities to communicate and to access information, but also it can be very useful to enhance the artistic and cultural expressions.
These regions where community networks are built have many differences between them, but there is one commonality: lack of interest from large telecommunication companies in providing affordable connectivity or any connectivity at all to areas where they deem unfeasible profit-wise. Thus, populations that are often already marginalized suffer even more from such technological exclusion. In Mexico, for example, the major cell phone companies in the country control about 97% of the sector with their profit-driven agenda. These companies do not offer services for many rural or impoverished areas. So, the solution to this scenario is arising from these excluded communities themselves. That was the case of Wikicatat, the first indigenous virtual operator providing internet and mobile phone services in Mexico. Wikicatat offers cell phone and mobile internet services under many different plans at a low cost, and it is possible to access services through their own operator or buy mobile chips.
Bueno, hola, mi nombre es Floriberta Lino de Jesús. Soy de una comunidad que se llama Tepetzalan.
Well, hello, my name is Floriberta Lino de Jesus. I'm from a community called Tepetzalan in the state of Puebla, Mexico. I'm a proudly indigenous woman. Well, Quetzalan is a magical town. They say it's magical because it has many waterfalls, hills, and Quetzalan is green. There's a lot of vegetation. It has a wealth of flora and fauna. Normally, whenever someone comes to visit Quetzalan, I always tell them, don't stay in central Quetzalan. Go to the communities, because that's where the good stuff really is. I'm talking about communities because it's a rural area, there are paths, there is a cornfield, there is coffee, creeks, and waterfalls.
Llega la pandemia y estábamos preocupados porque
the pandemic arrived and we were worried because there is something that began to happen a lot, which is that children were not studying. And that education was no longer free because now, to have access to classes, you have to recharge 50 or 100 pesos, and those 100 pesos were meant for a kilo of sugar, they were for a kilo of beans. We have to start creating a social enterprise that would make us sustainable, thought of in our territory, and strengthening the social and solidarity economy of the communities. That was when our dream of having a community mobile operator was born, which is Wikicatat.
que es Wikicatat.
As in Mexico, community networks have consolidated themselves as an economically viable alternative in several other places. That's the case of BARN, Broadband for the Rural North. This is a community benefit society in England, which means that the organization must serve the broader interests of the community, and that any surplus has to go right back into the community. The members of the community themselves own the initiative that takes internet connection to residents of many villages in the region. BARN's official price to users is closer to 3 cents per megabit per month, when the average cost for broadband in the United Kingdom is around 86 cents per megabit, almost $1. Let's listen to one of BARN's founders.
Hi, my name's Chris Conder. I'm 69 years old at the moment. I've been involved with trying to get internet connectivity to my community since I was 40. So I've been doing this for 29 years. And we went to the city council, who were going to be our sponsors, because we weren't anybody. We were just a management team of community nutcases. So the project would be fronted by the city council, who were fully supportive of getting the internet to 8 of their parishes at no cost to themselves, because this was a grant. And so £750,000, according to our plans, would have built a backbone. So from a breakout point of dark fibre, we could then feed our own fibre to our 8 communities. And the village postman was having his hair cut with the village hairdresser. And the village hairdresser was droning on like she did, instead of about holidays, which most hairdressers drone on about, she was droning on about broadband, and how the original plan was to go through the roads and pavements. And this postman, who drove all over those 8 parishes, just like the hairdresser, said, well, if you're going from Cuoma to Ray, for example, which is my village, Cuoma was the breakout point, and you're thinking of going through Lancaster and through Caton and through all the roads, which will take forever, why don't you just go over the fells? And you just skip over the fells through the easy peat, dig through that, and you're in Ray in a jiffy. And it's not going to cost you very much, because the farmers will dig it for you, because the farmers on the fells are desperate for a good connection, and do it that way. So that was the actual seed that started the theory that yes, we can do it ourselves. We've done it, and we've done it really, really well, and it works, and it's viable, and it's economical, and it's owned by the people and it's looked after by the people. It's built so much community cohesion. It is unbelievable how everybody in the community has got to know everybody else and gone on to help the next community and the next parish and got to know them. And they're still supportive now.
Have you noticed that in all these experiences that I'm sharing here, and which are from countries so different from each other, what they have in common is that they emerge from the initiatives of the communities, addressing their needs and desires. They are community-centered connectivity initiatives. In other words, connectivity that is shaped by the community itself in a way that reflects the different interests and relationships within the community, even if the community itself does not directly provide the infrastructure and services. This community-centered connectivity is what moves the passion of Professor Kanchana Kanchanasut's pioneering venture, which took the internet to Thailand. Nowadays, she's in charge of TACnet, Thailand's first community network. She was also the first person to create an email account in her country, besides having been the one who registered in 1988 the internet domain .th, which is still the official domain in Thailand. In her country, the need for a community network also became even more urgent with the COVID-19 pandemic, especially due to the educational demand.
Hello, my name is Kanchana Kanchanasut I am from Thailand and I work at the Asian Institute of Technology. I used to be a professor in computer science until my retirement. I found that the connectivity in the rural area in Thailand was still very poor. So I was working on mobile ad hoc network, which was I was aiming at post-disaster environment scenario. It happened that there was a big flood in Thailand in 2011. So I decided that we should try to introduce this technology to people, try to do one village. And we try to introduce the idea, get the people to get to know what the internet is and not to be afraid of technology. That was done in 2013. And since then, once you started to get involved, you cannot leave. So, the idea of introducing community network to the village was to me like when I started to introduce the internet to Thailand. It was very similar in many aspects. The disparity between the rich and the poor in Thailand is quite wide. So in the big city, people are used to internet. They have very good facility. And the government introduced the use of internet in so many curriculum for the school nationwide. So the children in the villages, they were asked to do their homework using the internet. And the parents and the family, so they had to allow the kids to go to town, to the internet cafe and all. So the parents were not happy about it. That was the situation before we went into the village. So once we started to introduce the network to them, and then the children could stay home. That was the start of the real deployment of our community network because the parents started to appreciate what we were doing. I believe that the concept of having the local community to build their own network, particularly for those remote villages, they should be able to decide what they want to do with their own community. They should not sit and wait for their provider to come and this type of thing. So we are trying to convince people to go to this direction.
But we know very well that technologies and connectivity are not always positive themselves. The internet can also cause problems, right? There's no shortage of examples in the world, such as the dissemination of fake news, prejudice, extremism, cybercrimes, and so on. That's why the local experiences we're sharing in this podcast show that community leadership is central to having these positive outcomes. Not only community networks help address digital divides, but they also help us rethink connectivity and digital inclusion strategies in a way that enhances positive impacts and reduces risks.
Hi, my name is Carlos Rey Moreno. I am originally from Spain, although I've been a bit all over. Currently, I'm in Australia. And I work for the Association for Progressive Communications, co-managing the program on local access networks and leading the LockNet initiative. Telecommunications is a highly regulated space where, in order to provide services, you need to pay rather hefty fees. I think it's on the interest, I guess, of everyone if we want to close the digital divide and to understand and to see that there is the need to create a more enabling environment for small operators that don't want to provide services outside their villages, that they don't want to become, a multinational company, and that the same rules do not apply and cannot apply in terms of fees, in terms of bureaucracy, in terms of taxes, if you want to incentivize that those communities are the ones solving their own problems that in many cases the market cannot solve for themselves. So, thinking that other type of regulations, other type of incentives are required to make sure that everyone is connected is necessary and is possible. There are many examples of countries where regulators and policymakers are understanding this need and are really transforming the regulatory framework to make a space for these other complementary type of operators, which are very much needed.
More than defending community networks as a perfect model, the Program on Local Access Networks, the LockNet initiative, is proposing a set of principles and values that focus on the community as a key holder for digital inclusion, also defining meaningful community-centered connectivity. Have you ever heard this expression? It is connectivity that operates in a local context, where it is affordable and accessible in terms of the local language, location, and devices, with the connectivity meeting the express needs of the community and adding value to its people's personal, social, and/or economic lives. We believe that people must have opportunities, abilities, and resources to achieve that in order to strengthen local well-being, economies, and cultures. And we hope these stories we shared with you in this episode inspire you to act and help to build solutions to digital gaps in communities around the world. If you like this podcast, please recommend it to those you know will appreciate it as well. If you want to know more about the projects we talked about here, check out the links we have provided in this episode's description. You can follow the season on the main podcast platforms or on APC's website, routingforcommunities.apc.org. We'll meet again soon with our second episode when we will talk about women in community networks. You just listened to the first episode of Season 2 of Routing for Communities, an audio journey tracing community connectivity around the world. This is the podcast of the Local Networks Initiative, a collective effort led by APC and Risomatica. Production, Rádio Tertúlia. Thanks, and see you next time. Bye!